Christmas Eve 2020. The pandemic is in full effect, and my husband comes home with the big family gift. For a steep discount on Facebook Marketplace, he'd gotten what had been an airport shuttle bus, a full-size Ford Transit van with 100,000 miles on it. This van, he imagines, can be our safe, mobile family pod. We can go places in a protected, roomy way. He'd even gotten a portable potty, the kind meant for boats, so that we could relieve ourselves inside the shelter of the van and not be exposed to the virusy bathrooms out in the wild. On the one hand, he's onto something. Our kids are 6, 8, and 10, and we've been cooped up for a while now. My reality has become homeschooling the kids while running my new business, all while feeling insane about keeping my people safe in this COVID-infested world. A private adventure van seems brilliant. On the other hand, we're a family of 5 that now has a 12-person minibus in our snug driveway. It's absurd. But the kids adore the van, and we affectionately name her Betty Ann. And the adventures begin. Stocked with face masks, Lysol wipes, and latex gloves, Betty Ann becomes our family's whole social life. She's our roving ski lodge, our mobile diner, movie theater, and even dance party. She's so spacious that each kid has their own row for lounging. Except for the parking challenges that she presents, Betty Ann is our pandemic's silver lining. For spring break of 2021, we plan a road trip to Virginia Beach from Connecticut, where we live. Our first stop is Philadelphia, a city we've never before explored. After we all take turns relieving ourselves in the van potty, we apply Purell, put on face masks, and climb out. My husband and the older kids are the first to get out of the van, and they saunter across Walnut Street, stretching and looking around, while my little guy, Roscoe, and I stay back in the van. After he pees, he decides that he'd rather join them than wait for me, so he climbs out the front seat, slams shuts the door, and runs around the front of the van to cross the street too. What he can't see behind the blunt, towering face of Betty Ann, and what I can see from my vantage point, perched up inside of the van with a full panoramic view, is that Walnut Street has quite suddenly become a thoroughfare. From my right, I see a single car flying up Walnut Street. From my left, I see my little boy running into that street. The closed van has sealed away this helpless mom, and Roscoe can't hear my terrified primal scream. Stop! Up until that moment, we'd been so careful, so intentional in all the parenting ways to keep our kids protected from danger, from COVID and strangers and the dark and bullying and drowning and allergic reactions and anxiety and hunger and injury and infection and choking and social media and profanity and moving cars. And just like that, in the flash of a moment, my child could be killed. But that is not how this story ends. You see, Roscoe came out of the womb protected. He was born in his caul, his amniotic sac fully intact, meaning that my water never broke as I birthed him. It's rare. Apparently only 1 in 80,000 babies are born this way. And folklore says that it's a sign of good luck and means that the baby will be protected. And this reassured me. But let me take you back to when I first became a mom, to his big sister in 2010. Becoming a mom, it was my dream come true. But the sudden reality of loving my own child for the first time intimidated me. It actually hurt in my chest. my new responsibility to keep this baby safe, it was an emotional behemoth. And like a maniac, I would watch her while she slept to be sure she was breathing, and I slathered Purell on everything. And this is pre-pandemic. In those early weeks of motherhood, I created for myself a quarantine of worry. But fear's grip on me shifts that first Christmas Eve of her life. We go to church despite all the harmful exposures that I can think of, and when we arrive, our rector welcomes us. And he crouches down to my baby in her infant carrier, his billowing vestments like a superhero's cape, and he blesses her, lightly crossing her forehead with his thumb, saying her name. As I watch on, it's like an invisible cloak envelops us, a protective sheath that has nothing to do with my Purell. It's coming from a place that's bigger than me, way bigger, universe big. Moments ago, I had felt alone and afraid as a new mom, and now I feel connected and warm. The raw nerve of my heart settles as I begin to release my grip on fear and allow faith to co-parent with me. We go on to have 2 more kids, and like with the first, I experienced the emotional gymnastics of falling in love with a new baby. But it's more miraculous than scary by my third, because I've become accustomed to that ache in my chest, and I've become hospitable to faith. On the regular, I actually choose faith over fear. It becomes my parenting mantra. And Roscoe's magical birth in his call provided some extra comfort. And yet, here we are on Walnut Street, and my beloved 6-year-old little boy is running into the street at the precise moment when a car races toward him. No love is big enough. No folklore is magical enough. No faith is powerful enough to protect him from the physics of this. The fate of my child, my family, is in the hands of a stranger who's driving that car. And I'm merely a witness. And Roscoe wouldn't have made it safely across that street except for that stranger's instinct to slam on their brakes, so that he does. This stranger, whose life I know nothing about, whose face I don't see, whose car I can't recall, and who I will never be able to thank, instinctively saved my child's life. When this moment on Walnut Street finds me in my sleep and haunts me awake, because it does, I can't figure out how my child escaped the impact. And that disturbing visual just loops in my mind. Eventually, when I can no longer handle the replay of my imagined nightmare, I lean into a trick that I've figured out to free myself. What I do is I imagine who the driver might be. I imagine the stranger. The stranger could be anyone at all. The stranger could be you. Sometimes I even imagine that the stranger is me, a person with a story and loved ones, and I take comfort in remembering that I too am just a stranger in the lives of so many people. And I wonder, maybe the stranger driving that car actually represents a little part of all of us. Despite the vast differences that make us individuals, maybe the connective thread is that most of us are just out here doing our best to keep our people safe. Maybe we're designed to instinctively protect each other when there's no time to think? Wouldn't most of us slam on the brakes? Wouldn't most of us choose to protect the child? I'm able to release myself from my imagined nightmare because I believe that most of us would. Because that's what we do. That's what humans with beating, aching hearts do. And just as I believe in the invisible cloak and in Purell, I also choose to have faith in us humans. And as a parent, vulnerable in a world where safety is not guaranteed, knowing that we're part of the human family makes me feel just a bit more protected. Thank you.